Well, good morning from Rhode Island. That's the first time I've ever got to say that on one of these videos, but I spent the night here at the George Washington State Park campground. Really nice campground here. And the reason that I'm here is because I'm going to be visiting the State Highpoint of Rhode Island. It's called Jerimoth Hill. It's about a 10-minute drive from the state park here, so I'm getting ready to hop in the truck and take the drive over, and I'll give you a little bit more information when we get there. So let's go do some exploring. Well, after our 20-minute or so drive through the countryside here in northwest Rhode Island, made it to the marker here, telling us that we've made it to Jerimoth Hills. So there's a parking lot about 100 feet behind the sign here, so we're gonna go park, and then the trail is straight across from the parking lot. It's a pretty busy road here. A lot of small hills, so everything looks about the same. I don't know how spectacular this is going to be, but let's go check out the Highpoint here in Rhode Island. Okay, so here's the little parking area alongside of the highway here. This is Highway 101, pretty busy little highway here in the countryside. Yep, this is where you can park if you want to go to Jerimoth Hill. And straight across is the sign for the trailhead. So let's take a look at that, and we'll walk in. I think it's about a third of a mile back in there to the Highpoint. So let's be careful and cross the street, and let's go check it out. Okay, welcome to Jerimoth Hill. Let's go check it out. All right, as soon as we get back in here a little ways off the highway so we can hear ourselves, give you a little bit of information about Jerimoth Hill and how it became named Jerimoth Hill, and a little bit of the history of the area here. So, Jerimoth Hill, straight ahead. Pretty flat trail here. In the third of a mile or so that we're walking in, there's about a 10-foot elevation gain. So we are supposedly on top of a hill, but everything around here is looking pretty flat and pretty much the same elevation. So just gonna have to take their word on it that this is the actual high point. It all looks about the same to me. So a little history about the area here. The hill itself was named after an early settler named Jerimoth Brown, who lived here around 1800. After that, the property changed hands a number of times, and by the early 1900s, a gentleman named Walter Turner owned the property. He was an alumnus of Brown University, class of 1911, and he owned the property for a number of years. In 1938, he purchased the surrounding land here, about 360 acres around the Highpoint, which provided a right-of-way from Route 101 back in here straight to the Highpoint. After acquiring the land from Mr. Turner, Brown University used Jerimoth Hill for decades as an astronomy observation location here. They used it because there was very little light pollution from the capital of Providence, Rhode Island here. So what they did was they cleared a bunch of trees around the Highpoint itself, about 200 square feet of opening here once we get up to the Highpoint, and that's where they have been using this area as an astronomy observation point for the last few decades. Another little fun fact about Jerimoth Hill is it owns the dubious distinction as being the only high point where people have actually been shot at for just trying to reach the high point itself. For many years, there was a property owner named Henry Richardson who owned a property along the road, and you had to actually cross his property to get to the Highpoint here. He posted no trespassing signs and installed a security system to alert him when hikers were crossing his property. And he came out, and legend has it that he would even shoot at people who were trying to reach the Highpoint here. But he eventually passed away, and his sons sold the property to the Mosley family, who then permitted access to the Highpoint. After that, the Mosley family eventually ceded the land to the state, and in 2014, Brown University sold the summit to the state itself, so now it's all owned by the state. All right, something tells me that this might be the location where Mr. Richardson's house was. There's my truck across the street, and it's a little driveway here over to this clearing. Looks like there might have been a space big enough here for a house, and this might be where he was and owned this property and did not allow people to cross over to the path that is right over there to get to the Highpoint. So now you don't have to worry about getting shot trying to reach the Highpoint here in Rhode Island. One last thing is that the Brown University, when they sold the property to the state, they did reserve the right to build an observatory here in the future. So there might be some improvements made at some point, but we're coming to the clearing right now. When you get here, you're gonna find a little small shed over here. I guess there's some equipment in it. There's another little building over to the side. So this is the clearing, and once you reach this point, if you look over to the right, you're gonna actually find the true Highpoint on the state of Rhode Island. It's marked by this large rock outcropping and a small pile of rocks that people have put here. There's also a log register book inside the case here if you want to sign in, let everybody know that you've been here. But this is the actual Highpoint of Rhode Island. I'll go ahead and sign the register book while I'm here, letting everybody know that I made it. A couple other little things in the box here, but let's go ahead and sign the register first. It looks like I'm the first person here today. There was one other person here yesterday, but I'll go ahead and sign the logbook for today. There we go. Well, I've officially made it to the Highpoint in the state of Rhode Island. Here is Jerimoth Hill. And at 812 feet, that officially makes this the 46th highest state high point in the country. This is my 8th state high point that I've reached. Had a pretty peaceful walk back in here. Nobody was shooting at me, and nice and quiet back here. Everything's pretty level. There's not really much elevation gain. Obviously, there's no great views. There's surrounded by the forest here, but I made it back in here and gave you a little bit of information about the area. So hopefully you like this little short video on the Highpoint of Rhode Island here. So if so, want to consider giving me a little thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. There'll be more of these to come, and hopefully I'll see you then, because like I always say, you never know what you're going to see when you get out and explore with John. Mosquito.